Today!
Okay, there we are. Okay. Hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, in every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another episode of Brady the RPG Cat. So, new year to us. It's the beginning of 2024, and we're looking to make a few major changes to the format. So, I'm sure some of you know, because, I've talked about it pretty significantly lately over the channel, is that, I have shifted to a 100% variety format on my other channel, facebook.com/heckler the jester, and I fully intend to do the same over here at Benny the RPG Cat. So we are going to start off by watching several videos. We are going to get our opinions on tabletop news and videos, get ourselves up to date and current with what is actually going up on in the tabletop scene, and then we're going to follow that up by, just watching some fun videos. So that's what tonight's stream is going to be about. Our first video is probably going to be a pretty lengthy one. This is just the entirety of the tabletop news broadcast from 13 days ago, 2 weeks 2 weeks ago. It was our most recent broadcast. So we're going to just go ahead. We're going to start watching this, see what we can glean from it, and then we're just going to move into other parts of the playlist. So, all right.
Today on Tabletop News, D&D issues a statement on a certain piece of art in the upcoming Player's Handbook.
We get into some of the details of the new Star Wars trading card game.
Ooh, and a chat with Jennifer Kretschmer about the importance of accessibility in gaming.
All that and more on your official stop for all things tabletop. I'm Nathan Andrasak.
And I'm Giselle LeBlue-Gant.
And this is Tabletop News.
Let's roll.
This week, a now-deleted X thread accused artist Nestor Asandin of using AI for their Dwarf Warrior art in the upcoming D&D 2024 release. In response, Asandin released their work-in-progress pieces and their design process behind the work to disprove the accusation.
Meanwhile, Wizards of the Coast released a statement confirming the artist did not use AI for the piece, and then the next day released statements for both D&D and Magic, saying they require all their writers, creatives, and artists to refrain from using AI.
AI models are often trained on the pre-existing work of artists and writers, leading many to be wary of the rapidly developing technology and sometimes sparking less than civil discourse on the internet or jumping to unfounded claims.
People being
I don't think it's unfounded.
I know.
The significance of art in gaming and the potential threat AI poses to it can be viewed through the lens of our past. Next year, Wizards of the Coast releases The Making of Original Dungeons and Dragons 1970 through 1976, with letters between Gygax and Arneson and some as yet unreleased early art like, oh my god, look at that dragon! What
Yep.
a silly little guy. I mean, look,
Yeah,
it's
I
just-
mean, early primitive prototype
Modern
art.
games are taking art to
You
a
don't
new
have to
level,
take a
like
chunk
Legacy,
out of the
which is created by
Gygax
Pixar,
legacy,
featuring
lady.
Artist Simon Stalenhag's jarring, eerie art of a suburban, rural, alternate 90s America where weird technology impedes upon nature. Based on a graphic novel from writer Nils Hintze, the RPG is created by Free League Publishing.
Fascinating. Let's see that dragon again. Come on, look at the wings.
Oh, well, okay, so yeah, this is going to be a whole bit.
We've got to keep going. I know, we're all excited. At this year's PAX Unplugged, Dicebreaker honored artists with the
Okay, it's no Trogdor the Burninator, we all get it.
Among the nominees were Historica Arcanum, Herald of Rain, created by Istanbul-based Metis Media, with its undead Silk Road imagery, and Leyline Press's Salvage Union, with its evocative and playful...
Hello, OS Devin, welcome to the stream. How are you doing tonight?
Card game with meticulously crafted art from Viv Tanner and Eli Baum. Each card is full of symbolism and story and is inspired by esoteric tales and Viennese Art Nouveau.
Ooh, all this wonderful art
Oh, wow.
annoys the artist. It brings an intention to the gameplay.
I mean, so you're showing, okay, so you're going through this and you're watching the accusation that Dungeons & Dragons used AI for art, first of all. Second of all, the early prototype art from Gygax D&D. And then you're going to chase all of that by showing 2 or 3 independent pieces that from other RPGs that tend to just blow both of those out of the water.
Paints and adhesives. The average board game we crack open often contains a whole...
It's good to see you. The brain fog has cleared and I have resumed my duties. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much similar to what happened to me at the end of this year.
Attention to the ecological impacts of board game production.
Andrew Navarro, designer of Earthborn Rangers, is quite familiar with these materials, having spent nearly 2 decades in the industry, mostly with Fantasy Flight Games, the makers of the upcoming Star Wars Unlimited TCG.
Aided by students taking a
oh, we're actually getting some TCG news in this one.
2021, Navarro's goal with Earthborn Rangers...
I mean, so there was a lot of rumors circulating around whether or not, you know, the Lorcana tabletop RPG from Ravensburger was actually going to spin off into stuff like Star Wars, but I guess no. Star Wars is just going to get its own tabletop now.
Each time you take an action on the table, the world comes to life around you. And just as our actions affect the world around us, this thoughtful game aims to raise awareness of the impact gaming can have.
Oh yeah, those are very nice cards.
This week, we sat down with disability consultant Jennifer Kretschmer to talk about the importance of accessibility in gaming and how those issues affect everyone, whether we know it or not.
Creators Corner.
Jennifer Kretschmer. I am an actor, I'm a producer, I am a tabletop performer, I'm a tabletop author. Also, I'm a disability consultant.
Is everybody who works in the tabletop sphere also an actor and a producer?
Their representation of disability, their understanding of what disability
I mean, I'd raise my hands, but unfortunately my model doesn't allow me to.
It's really important to have those conversations because in the real world, more than 26% of people
and
are
recycled?
disabled.
Yeah, love to see it.
In terms of media representation, it's a very, very small percentage of the characters we see. The tabletop industry is starting to get more and more accessible, which is wonderful, but historically, there has not been a lot of access or accuracy in the space. Disability is often used for villainy, which is a frustratingly persistent trope. But also in tabletop, we're moving toward more accessible tools like screen reader-friendly materials, having digital tools, and those things are okay rather than those being problems in terms of how we play. The pandemic has had
so, you know, a lot of times in tabletop games that I play, they just kind of have something of a standardization about limitations and disabilities. You know, very specific rules when it comes to when somebody is missing a limb, when somebody might not have the ability to walk, when somebody has an issue like an addiction or a condition like alcoholism.
To have hybrid panels or to have different ways for people to attend. Some shows have kept mask requirements, but the reality is basically every convention we've had, there's been an outbreak afterward. I think the advice I would give to organizers of those events would be to...
I mean, it's also, yeah, key to follow up on things like the fact that...
ventilation is really important. Putting things outside whenever it's
yeah,
possible.
People always tend to go homesick after conventions.
Having masks available for free. It's both a financial investment and a moral investment in the community that you have. I think it's really, really important that disabled people continue to advocate for themselves and not let
Yeah, I definitely get the
themselves
sickies
disappear.
after mine.
It's
I tend to be a
becoming
little bit
increasingly
more stout
difficult
than
for
that,
disabled
but
voices to be heard. During the pandemic,
the thing that beats me up
was
after a convention
very
is,
much
you
a
know,
community
fatigue.
care,
I'm
and
not as
everyone
young as I
is
used to
taking
be.
care of one another and protect each other, and very rapidly that vanished. And I think the way our society has historically looked at disability has made people very afraid of it. And when people are confronted with that and the understanding that they are vulnerable to being disabled, the way that they have treated disabled people and had attitudes about disability their whole lives makes them very afraid of becoming disabled themselves. There are so many amazing resources out there to educate yourself more on disability, on ableism, on how to create more accessible spaces and inclusive worlds. The first thing I always recommend is Stella Young's TED Talk, which is called I Am Not Your Inspiration, Thank You Very Much. It's a 9-minute hilarious TED Talk, and I can't recommend it highly enough. I have a free accessibility resource that links you to tons and tons of different resources for world building, for writing, for creating accessible spaces. There's an amazing resource called the Fate Accessibility Toolkit, which is available through
I should download that and I should give that a read myself. Just out of concerns that I might actually be putting something in my own lore that is too
It's
ableist.
such a great book and such an incredible resource. I can't recommend it highly enough.
Accessibility is so vital. Let me go ahead and toss in that the fact that I used to work in communication circles, and so I was responsible for doing some things that helped to promote accessibility when it came to providing educational materials to college students. And probably, yeah, the main thing about that was to make sure that, you know, every PDF that we published was compatible with text-to-speech. And so that, you know, included making sure every image actually did have captions on it, so the captions would be read by text-to-speech. Making sure that there wasn't any, like, embedded text, because, you know, embedded text created a situation where it wasn't capable of being read by text-to-speech, so then if there was important information there, then anybody using a text-to-speech program would not be able to access it. So, you know, it's still something that I've got to keep in the back of my head whenever I self-publish it. You know, so that, you know, I can continue to provide a good all-encompassing space for anything that I put forward. Accessibility is such a vital resource. I'm so glad to see way more people working on it now. I am too. That is fantastic.
On X. Plus, check out the description below to view some of the resources she mentioned in the interview.
Giselle, I want to talk about
games that are free and require minimal resources.
Only if I can get a cool voice too.
We'll see if we can work it in. Let's start with Call of Plastic, a miniature war game by Adam L. Dobbins. The rules are about 2 pages long. It uses little plastic army men, and the terrain is your kitchen table with whatever is already on it. Take cover behind the pizza box for a defensive bonus. Just don't get outflanked because it doesn't count against melee rules.
This looks like the plot
I
of
like
a
that.
gritty Toy Story reboot, and that reminds me. I got one for you. In a land where they have stolen Christmas from the masses, it's up to a ragtag band of rebels to take it back in with the halls. A one-page Christmas cyberpunk RPG by Thrin Henderson and Grant Howitt. Just make sure
You know,
Christmas
really
is
happy to
before
see
the
this.
pressure
I mean,
is too
I think
high.
they're putting it under the banner of
Fulfilling your
cheap
random
and
Christmas wish can bring some temporary relief.
nearly
Entire
free,
world set
easy
on
to
one page,
access tabletop
knowing later if you
RPGs, but
like,
it really
send
does
some
have
paper
that
and a friend or two.
strong vein of early Gygax, right out of the box accessibility into that, and I enjoy that very much.
Ignoring the dark lords and rampaging minions, avoiding pesky wizards, and just tending my crop.
You should play Potato, a one-page game by Oliver Darkshire, because that's the entire premise.
Love it.
Boil 'em, mash 'em, stick 'em in a stew. Just make sure your destiny meter doesn't fill up, or you'll be whisked away on a wretched adventure before harvest time. Potato is played with a few D6s, and it's a solo game, so you can enjoy a relaxing second breakfast on your own while you play.
You know, just
Okay, and note to self, look up Potato, see if we can actually play it over the stream in the future episode.
What?
I'm giving you an into the next story here, is what I'm trying.
Right.
Yes.
Fantasy Flight Games previews the highly anticipated card game Star Wars Unlimited.
Star Wars Unlimited has been in development for over 3 years and will pick up elements from Fantasy Flight's previous card games, which includes Game of Thrones, the card game...
From Fantasy Flight Games.
Unlike Magic the Gathering, which uses land cards to build mana, Unlimited's resource system...
I mean, I can understand why Disney would not like go to Magic the Gathering or would go with or Hasbro with a license. Wouldn't go to Wizards of the Coast with a license. Especially not that its other one is
have a leader such as Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, or Boba Fett, as well as a base such as the Death Star Command Center or Catacombs of Gadara on Jeddah.
Leaders have built-in abilities that impact the game and can also serve as units that do battle more directly to opponents. Leaders will
okay,
have two
standard
distinct
leadership system.
aspects, where bases will have one.
These aspects are vigilance, command, aggression, cunning, heroism, and villainy.
Ooh.
Mixing and matching leaders.
It's got an elemental
different
system too.
aspects will create entirely new decks, truly keeping players on their toes.
Star Wars Unlimited is Fantasy Flight's 7th game in the Star Wars universe, and its first set, Spark of the Rebellion, comes to us in March of 2024.
Before our next story, we just wanted to take
Yeah, just 2 months from now.
Thank you to you, our viewers.
I hope it will be accessible
Tabletop
2 months
News
from
is an
now.
entirely independent production because of the belief of a whole lot of people coming together to raise funding on Kickstarter to make the series happen.
Earlier this year, we launched a Kickstarter to raise the funding to make 10 episodes of Tabletop News. And through thick and thin, we've done it. While we can't say yet what the future holds, the fact remains, without so many of you supporting us, this never would have become a reality. So thank you.
If you're looking for fun ways to support the show outside of the standard like, share, and follow, please consider visiting our website and shopping with our amazing partners who have provided incredible deals for our audience because they too believed in us. Using those codes, links, and deals honestly goes a long way towards supporting Tabletop News.
But hey, that's enough about us.
Aw.
Let's get back to it, shall we?
The Brooklyn Strategist is a game cafe in New York. Yeah, shout out to New York.
Wow,
owned by
that would be
John
nice,
Freeman, that recently made headlines after their workers successfully unionized. This follows close on the heels.
Yeah, note to self is that if I ever do have an opportunity to take a vacation, see if it can be a tour of tabletop bars and other tabletop businesses in a major city like New York.
Election to unionize on December 6th.
In all 3 cases, Freeman and May were presented with the opportunity to voluntarily recognize the unions, and they refused each time. The workers at the stores pressed on, filing for a union election with the National Labor Relations Board, and subsequently winning those elections in landslide victories.
Workers seeking better wages and working conditions have been on the upswing in the tabletop gaming industry in recent years. In late 2021, Paizo Publishing and Cards Against Humanity employees each formed their own unions.
Well, if there's one thing tabletop gamers are good at, it's banding together to face big challenges while navigating complex sets of rules and regulations.
Hear, hear. This makes me think we should develop our own TTRPG about unionizing. We could call it Workers and Wages.
Yes.
I'd play it.
Stand against merciless managers and their legions of union busters.
That's an original idea. Do not steal it.
I mean, also in regards to the Dungeons and Dragons blowback that had happened in the middle of last year, it is certainly true that tabletop players are known for reading every single word, every single letter of a contract.
Welcome to Fun Day! I'm Sam Cavalcanti, and today we're highlighting the latest in tabletop crowdfunding. First up is Beyond the Beasts from Hebridean Tales. With this deck of cards,
Hebridean Tales.
Compendium when your party encounters a beast. Each card comes with crisp black and white artwork to help your party see who they're up against. On the back, you can find lore, stats, variations on the creature, a quick GM guide with relevant information, and more. The campaign goes until January 10th and has stretch goals to include more types of monsters. From St. Cayman Studios, a 2-man coalition, comes their first project, The Night Watch. It's a combination tabletop game and music album, all rolled into one CD or MP3 file. I always wanted a game that could go into my Spotify Wrapped. The Night Watch tells the tale of unsung heroes of dark fantasy worlds as they defend their villages from frightening beings that go bump in the night. Listen to immersive original music on one 18-minute EP.
Oh yes, oh yes. You know, I do enjoy a tabletop RPG that actually does have a soundtrack to it.
Play the Night's Watch. Well, see on over to their Kickstarter before December 30th.
I mean, if that's anything that, you know, people can potentially offer when it comes to their own out-of-the-box role-playing game, it would be the music that goes along with it.
Audio narration featuring talented voice actors, music, and sound effects for your at-home adventures. Foreteller's newest arrival, Sleeping Gods Distant Skies, is now available with over 7 hours of narration featuring 31 voice actors. Use code TTN for 10% off narration games. Link in description below. This next project lets you flex a little creativity in Our Fantasy Town by Gnome Made Games. It's a map of a fantasy town that backers help create. Backers can vote for the town's name, create NPCs to live there, and even design the buildings around town. The higher the pledge tier, the more involved you can be. To top it all off, the product will be sold on Drive-Thru RPG, and backers who contribute will get royalties on the sales. It's set out with only $88 and has raised a whopping $1,959. Stretch goals increase the size and complexity of the final town, and the campaign doesn't end until December 30th. Finally, we have...
Well, that is to say that it did already end.
Sci-fi pop-up escape game. You play as recruits for a revolutionary group.
I love it. It's pretty interesting in concept.
Cyberpunk world.
You're effectively just, you know, creating the entirety of your world through feedback on a crowdfunding site.
Each room has hidden details to find.
I mean, you know, falling just short of the fact that every single RPG is also, you know, gets contributions from the people who are following their crowdfunding.
Back to you.
I gotta say, Beyond the Beast looks great. Anything that'll help a DM or GM run an encounter a little more quickly, a little more smoothly, that's a win.
You know what time it is?
Hammer time.
No, it's News from Your Table, where we share news from your games.
This week's news from your table comes to us from Lemon on our Discord.
Hey, Lemon.
Hi. They played the Alien board game and it was a tense battle. Things started off smooth when they got the flashlight to help their morale.
That's good.
Yeah, until the encounter deck started moving the alien closer and closer to them.
That's bad.
Yes, it is. And it created more and more blockades for them to get around.
That's more and more bad.
Their final objective was...
Aliens, the RPG, you're on one side of the ship. The Xenomorph is on the other side of the ship. What are you gonna do? What are you going to do?
Until the ship self-destructed. Together they rallied and incinerated the alien, sending it back to its nest with 1 round to go. They had 1 crew member safe, while 2 were still 2 rooms away, and their morale was dropping.
Well, you know, sometimes you just gotta...
They weren't wired that way. They didn't give up. An alien caused 1 to flee closer to the escape hatch, and with their final action, they used the captain power of No Man Left Behind, enabling the captain to run back, grab the last teammate, pick them up, and bring them both to safety. The turn ended with everyone safe as the self-destruction began. They end the story with this, and I quote, "While we might have fudged the rules slightly to allow us to win at the end, it was a fun time."
Well, that's amazing. As long as you're having fun, there's nothing wrong with fudging the rules a little bit.
Yes, Giselle.
I mean, especially if you're playing co-op.
Every game I play.
What?
That's it for the news this week. Thanks for watching Tabletop News, your official stop for all things tabletop. Don't forget to ring that bell, like, and subscribe.
Before we end today's show, we wanted to say thank you one more time for supporting Tabletop News. We're so grateful to all of our Kickstarter backers for helping bring these 10 episodes to life. And we can't wait to see what new adventures happen in 2024.
Remember, our website has a ton of deals, discounts, and codes with some amazing partners like Swagbucks, Legend Keeper, Arcane Wonders, and so many more. Please consider showing your support by using those as you shop this holiday season. And on behalf of our entire team, thank you!
Woo!
I am Nathan!
And I'm Giselle!
Happy holidays!
Okay, well, that was the last episode of Tabletop News. Yeah, probably the one that they had decided to do just before they went on vacation for Christmas. As far as you know, as far as the way the news goes, probably the first thing worth discussing is the potential use of AI in Dungeons and Dragons. This one, it mostly ended up being a false alarm, but uh, at the very least is that we are kind of faced with the situation that AI generation is going to show up in RPG materials, and it's possible that at some point there might actually become a time when these kinds of things are ethically sourced, when these kinds of things are put together with individuals who have given 100% of their consent to having their work used in an AI creating environment. But I think the prevailing issue, particularly online, is that those times are not here yet. I think just this was completely unrelated, but I recall that there was a time that some area very recently somebody was able to pull up the entirety of the names of artists who contributed to the algorithm used for GPT in order to create artwork. And so one of the major arguments when it comes to the use of AI in just in any situation at all is the fact that the authors of the AI program say that they don't have any personal responsibility to what the algorithm picks up and uses, but this effectively disproved that simply because of the fact that they were able to do that. They were able just to pick up the names of every single artist using the software. So AI artwork is still kind of trapped in the corner when it comes to the way in which it is basically derived, and that is what is concerning to anybody who actually might be able to use it as any sort of stopgap or any sort of user-friendly means of producing it. And besides that, we all know that I'm a great big fan of the use of low-res monochromatic pen and ink art in tabletop books. Probably one of the things, if I ever have a cause in discussing tabletop, it's really just the necessity of having tabletop books be copyable, because in that situation is that you're able to move those tabletop RPGs to a much wider audience. And so we had something in the we had something in this episode that just kind of involved a couple of just lower resolution tabletop concepts. One of them involved playing army men on tabletop. The other one involved a solo game in which that you are able to just use 3 stats in order to complete a task. And that is really just, that is just chef's kiss to me. That is perfect because we're not allowing, the limitations of anything in order to get in the way of the process of creating tabletop. And of course, the major domo of this episode had to do with accessibility in gaming, which is something that, I'm firmly behind. So, I personally have never had any kind of issues dealing with accessibility in tabletop. I mean, I do just have some reported mental issues. One of them is autism spectrum disorder. The other one is uh, um, clinical depression, but that's never really entered into things on the tabletop sphere. It's just the fact that I have some limitations. I know that it can be really difficult to have to navigate these sorts of things when there are limitations in place. So yeah, we are pro accessibility in this channel. I 100% agree with that, Devin. So when it comes to accessibility in general. I mean, I think that the statement that was created by Jennifer Kretschmer stated that there's no problem with um, any individual with any potential disability actually coming to the table and participating in gameplay. However, there are a lot of issues that have to do with, how disability is portrayed in game. And, well, something that we might actually bring up in the future is we might want to be able to pull out some fan created mythos surrounding um, disabled characters, including several of the very well publicized rigs wherein fantasy characters are capable of having wheelchairs. Um, so this is definitely something that I want to do with the channel from this point forward. Is that anything that we pick up from uh, a news program or this any kind of material has the potential to cross over into a future episode, so that we can continue to provide a continuous source for many of the concepts that are introduced here. And so that is definitely something that we're looking at. Just at some point, look forward to an overview about accessibility among uh, fictional characters and player characters inside of tabletop games. That's what I hope to follow up on in the immediate future. Um, Let me see what else was in this episode. Well, Star Wars Unlimited, of course, looks like a great TCG. I'm looking forward to it. It's being put forward by a board game company that is also just associated with Star Wars in general at this point. It's interesting that, license wise, it doesn't involve Ravensburger, the creators of Lorcanna, and it doesn't involve, any already established TCG companies such as Wizards of the Coast, Bandai Namco, Konami. So, I'm more than certain that it's going to come out. And it also has a lot of features that are extremely similar to one-on-one elemental TCG brawling games with leaders, which actually gives it a lot of similarities to One Piece. So, um, once the game releases in March, we'll probably have an opportunity to go over it, or I'll have an opportunity to go over it on my other channel, which is facebook.com/Hecklar the Jester. And so, yeah, I think that encapsulates what was in this episode. So, I think we've managed to get ourselves amicably through the informative section of today's show. We're just going to pick out from here. We're just going to watch a few more videos. Our first video comes to us from Guinea Dye, and this one is called "How to Make Shopping in D&D Not Suck."
There are two ways to handle shopping in D&D. You either make it fun or you make it fast. If you and your players would prefer to just speed past shopping, then I am not trying to change your mind. Just keep on doing whatever works for your table. But if your players enjoy downtime roleplay and you want to be able to make shopping sessions fun and engaging for them and for you, then man, I've got a lot to say. And so does Bramble, the pixie proprietor of the Hedgerow.
Welcome in. What do you want? Plants for decoration, plants for healing, plants for protection, or travel, or poison? Make it snappy, I haven't got all day. My griffin's tail lily is flowering soon, and no offense, but it's much better conversation.
I recently created the Hedgerow for The Seeker's Guide to Enchanting Emporiums, a book that recently launched on Kickstarter. They sponsored this video so that I can tell you all about what I created for the book and what I learned doing it. It's going to be 250 plus pages of magic item shops and merchants for 5th edition D&D. And they're more than just shops. They're full
Interesting resource.
including detailed characters, events, and quest hooks, on top of setting descriptions, art, and of course unique new magic items to stock the shelves and give your players something to spend their hard-earned gold on. Here's the thing, I've put together plenty of shops for my D&D tables over the years, but working on this project really leveled up my shop game and taught me a lot about how to make a shop not just a list of items and prices, but an engaging source of roleplay and even part of your world building. So let's talk about how to make shopping fun using the Hedgerow as an example examples so you can see these tips in practice. And of course, if you want to add the hedgerow and more than 20 other fantastic, fully developed shops and traveling traders to your game, pledge on Kickstarter at the link in the description.
When I first came to the mortal realm, your cities made me sick to my spiracles. How do you sleep at night without hearing the whispers of the trees? How do you live in stone boxes? Where's all the life? So I had to build my little greenhouse, you see? And some say it's gotten out of hand, but frankly, it's none of their business. That area is for authorized personnel only, so if they wander in and get kidnapped by a dryad or consumed by corpse moss, I'm not liable for that.
If you want shopping to be fun, the first thing to remember is that...
Well, I mean, anything short about building a fence around a dryad, which itself is probably some sort of crime.
So if you want your players to feel engaged during a shopping session, then you need more than a fun name and an inventory list. You need characters. The natural place to start is the shopkeep. Who runs this shop and why? Now, you don't need to come up with a full, complex backstory, but anything you can do to make your shopkeep feel like a real person instead of a cardboard cutout will help your players connect with them.
So, I just kind of want to throw in at this point is that, I pretty much followed in the concepts that were presented to me by, here's that great big fat name again, by Critical Role when it comes to creating NPCs. And it's truly, the fact that NPCs don't have to be particularly involved, but it should be useful that they're present even when it comes to game fundamentals, such as creating, like, the shopkeeper. And so, I do make it a point to make sure that there are NPCs watching, that have at least the meagerest amount of backstories involved in the gaming process. When we play one-shots from the Meowing Portal, of course, our shopkeeper, Lolly the Goblin, has really just become, one of the members of the cast at this point. It's just there's enough backstory in order to, make them into an equal participant in a lot of the stories that had come out throughout the rest of the first season. So I definitely do want to be a participant when it comes to the creation of believable characters in all elements of a tabletop.
I suggest that if nothing else, you give them two features, a quirk and a goal. For example, let's say your players visit an armory to upgrade their gear. The shopkeeper's quirk is that they're always singing, and their goal is to save up enough money from the profits of this shop to launch their musical career. Once a week, they host an open mic night after closing. Or maybe your players check out a magic item shop. This shopkeep's quirk is that she's always being shadowed by a reluctant, disinterested teenage son. Her goal is to train him to take over the family business when she retires. The purpose of a quirk is to make the character stand out, particularly in a circumstance...
It's actually a solid goal, and it only makes sense for you. Yeah, absolutely.
There are a lot of reasons you want characters to fall in love with a shopkeeper. Relationships with NPCs make players care about your world and feel invested in what happens in it. And memorable characters bring that world to life and make it feel real. This also helps players learn about and keep track of the locations they visit. Meanwhile, the purpose of a goal is to make that character dynamic. Once your party cares about the shopkeep, you can use that goal to make sure that things change, giving your players a chance to interact and influence the course of events for these characters. Like maybe next time they visit the family-owned magic shop, the shopkeep tells them that she's retiring next month. Her teenage son pulls the party aside and begs them to bring him along and train him to be an adventurer. Do they help him, even if it means that there might not be a source of magic items in this town for them anymore? Or do they convince him to stay and take over the family business? And if they do, how does the new ownership affect the wares and prices and quality of the shop? Also, knowing a character's goal is super useful in roleplay scenarios. Anytime you have to ask yourself how your NPC would react to a situation, you can reference their goal. Tons of DMs get annoyed by players trying to roll persuasion checks for discounts and spending a ton of time haggling with shopkeepers. But that experience gets a lot more interesting, and your players have to be more creative when your shopkeep has goals. The aspiring singer who runs the armory is probably unlikely to offer a discount unless the characters can provide something beneficial to their musical career. Offering to recommend them as entertainment for an upcoming event at the royal court might convince them to shave some gold pieces off the price.
That'll be 53 gold pieces. No, let's not make it an even 50. What do you mean just plants? If you don't think my wares are worth it, then don't waste my time. And don't bother trying to haggle with the shrublets. They're not authorized to give discounts.
Shrublets,
Come on, learn to
shrublets.
respect nature. Now scram!
I know I've been very focused on the shopkeep here, but you might also consider developing characters around shop employees, or even other customers. In my write-up for the hedgerow, there are several recurring...
I mean, that is the way in order to enhance what I had already discussed, is that it's necessary in order to actually have other people involved in the shop scenario than just the shopkeep.
They're not going to get attached to every NPC you throw at them, so feel free to come up with basic concepts for several, and then wait to see which ones they like before you develop them any further.
Listen, I hate to ask for a favor, but I'm at my wit's end. We've been trying to expand the caverns under the greenhouse so we can cultivate aquatic cave plants, but my excavation crews keep getting attacked. If I lose another shrublet to whatever's burrowing around down there, I'm gonna tear my antennae out. I'll let you pick some items from the shop for free if you can get to the bottom of it. What do you say?
This might be obvious to some people, but I have to say it just in case it's an eye-opener for you. If you want shopping to feel like part of the story instead of just a chore, then you need to place narrative moments into shops. In between listing inventory and haggling for discounts, something has to actually happen. And there are tons of different ways to accomplish that. For example, you could tie a shop into another plotline. Maybe you need something from the shopkeep for a quest, but it's not for sale. Or they've already sold it to someone else. Or it was stolen. Maybe the shopkeep can give you what you need, but only if you complete a task for them first. The shop doesn't even need to be explicitly tied to the event in order to serve as its location. Like, maybe an attacker follows the party to the shop and attacks them while they're inside. You can also do the classic thing of using a shopkeep as a source for a quest hook. A merchant is exactly the type of person who needs errands run, materials fetched, and goods delivered. This is a perfect solution if your players need extra money, or just a way to fill some time. And of course, you can always throw some events into your shopping sessions just for flavor. An argument between a customer and the shop owner can establish character traits, or even atmosphere for the city. A store opening event or a going out of business sale can make your world feel dynamic and alive. Remember, a merchant or employee or shop regular can be just like any other NPC in your game. A shopping session doesn't need to be any different from any other session, and locating plot-relevant NPCs in a marketplace or store helps blend those edges and make your world feel realistic. There's no reason that a marketplace or storefront needs to be any different from the other locations where characters can learn information, interact with complex characters, or run into conflict or complications. Of course, if something surprising happens every time your players go into a shop, it's gonna stop being surprising pretty quickly. Just because you can have stuff happen during shopping sessions doesn't mean that you should do that every single time. Part of making a world feel alive is making it feel unpredictable. If your party comes to expect that every single time they
Or in contrast, completely predictable.
or tackle a fetch quest, that'll end up being just as repetitive as consistently uneventful shopping sessions are.
Hey, kid, thanks for your help with that sprite infestation last week. It's a shame about the fire damage, though. Looks like we're gonna have limited stock for a while until we can get those repairs done. You should really talk to your wizard about that.
This isn't going to come up all the time, but one thing that I really loved about writing for Enchanting
Oh, an actual penalty for wizard fireballing the shop. That's
the inventory. This is a great way to remind your players that they have a real impact on this world. Maybe they complete a fetch quest, and that enables the shop to stock a new item or provide a new service. Or maybe the things they do or witness within the shop make it harder to get what they need.
Here's something you might like. It's a watering cant. Instead of pouring water out, it sucks water in. Whatever it collects, it stores up. But be careful, the moat it creates is dangerous. Explosive, even. You wouldn't want to... Ah, I see from your expression that you see that as a feature rather than a bug. Well, just don't test it out in the store.
Another great way to make your shopping sessions more interesting is to make the actual items your players are shopping for more interesting. I mean, that is the point of shopping, right? Now, obviously the rulebooks are full of items both magical and mundane for your players to find and purchase. And I'm not saying that you should ignore those. You can pick out specific items to make available at specific shops, whether that's by theme or by random roll. And I don't think it's bad to have the basics like crossbow bolts or incense or parchment easily accessible everywhere.
incense,
But if every
peppermints.
shop has all the same items, or if your players are experienced enough with D&D to recognize say an alchemy jug or a wand of smiles, there are a lot of ways to spice up a shop's inventory and make sure shopping still holds some surprises. The most obvious answer is to homebrew some stuff. Personally, I am a homebrew fiend and I really enjoy coming up with my own items. But if you don't feel comfortable creating your own, you can use one of the practically infinite third-party resources for magic items. But if you're nervous about offering too many magic items or homebrew stuff being overpowered or unpredictable, there are tons of other ways to make shop stock more interesting. You can do homebrew light and just reflavor or tweak existing items, like reskinning an immovable rod as a stuffed rabbit of permanence, or turning a wand of fireballs into a scepter of psychic bursts and just changing the damage type. You can increase or decrease an item's power, like a second-hand robe of useful items that only has 3 patches left, or a bag of holding that comes pre-stocked with a selection of potions. An item doesn't even need to be magical or work differently in order to make the shopping experience more interesting. Like maybe a shop sells leather armor that has the exact same stats as any other leather armor, but this one is beautifully hand-tooled with intricate feather designs and has been painstakingly painted with red and gold accents. Or just because a blacksmith might have a +1 longsword to sell doesn't mean that they would call it that. Maybe it's Harpy's Bane, the legendary blade of a folk hero who saved the people of the town from a nest of harpies and bound some of their feathers to the hilt as a trophy.
With the briar darts, we're looking at a total of... Hey! What part of do not touch don't you understand? If you poison yourself with those things, I'm not paying for the healer.
So, to recap, don't just make a shop, make characters. Make sure story is happening while you're shopping, and introduce some interesting items to keep your players on their toes. I know I said this at the beginning, but it bears repeating, you do not need to turn every shopping session into an engaging roleplay experience. You can always handle shopping in between sessions or in the form of a montage or whatever suits your table. And just because you want to roleplay shopping sometimes doesn't mean you need to do it every time. It's totally okay to change your approach depending on what the individual session calls for. But if you and your players do enjoy the occasional in-depth shopping roleplay, these 3 tactics can be used over and over again to create basically an infinite number of shops and merchants that feel individual and dynamic and alive. And of course, if that sounds like fun, but you don't feel like writing up your own shops, or you just want some inspiration, check out the link in the description to pledge for your copy of The Seeker's Guide to Enchanting Emporiums, where you can find my Pixie Bramble and her shop, The Hedgerow, along with a bunch of other fully developed, unique shops for your games.
You've met the Shrublets, of course. Sprig, Bud, Root, and their cousin Petal. Herb is out sick this week. They've got a nasty pest problem, and I don't want them spreading it everywhere. Twig is covering Herb's shifts in the meantime. Highly recommend hiring awakened shrubs if you get the chance. And not just because they want to be paid in fertilizer.
All right. So, something I just want to say before we go on to the next video is that, the interactivity with shopkeepers is also something that can be very strongly influenced by the player characters. It's happened more than once in tabletop sessions that I've played around all seas, particularly in one specific instance, we had a player character start to court the individual who was running the shop, and it's just really that he would leave and come back to the shopkeeper, with like a bundle full of flowers. Every once in a while, they would be able to just kind of have a slightly charged exchange, and then we would go out, and then we would continue to find ourselves doing standardized quests. And so probably something else that is worth noting when it comes to creating these situations is that it would be helpful, if as a player character that you're receptive to being invested in these kinds of situations, whatever these relationships are, that you'll be able to grow within them. And, and so really that's really just kind of the end of that, is that, I think, the best kind of tabletop is one where everybody feels like they're making some kind of contributions and they're actually involved in the world building as well. And so this next video comes from Roll for Combat. And so this is probably going back to something that we've been talking about for the past 2 or 3 episodes. And it is effectively, how does Wizard move forward following the very end of 2023? So just to recap really quickly is that, everybody has been talking about what D&D entailed at the end of 2023, the entirety of the situation involving the removal of the open game license, followed by the fan blowback when it came to that, and then just the mediocre reception of new forms of Dungeons and Dragons merchandise, including the film that released that year, Honor Among Thieves, inevitably resulted in Hasbro deciding to lay off several people who are involved in Dungeons and Dragons. And so this is a little bit more of a discussion when it comes to all of that by the people from Roll for Combat. Stephen Glicker, RFC publisher, and Derek Belinda, publisher of Knights of the Last Call. So just a new perspective on a discussion that we have already been going through. This is Will Dungeons and Dragons 2024 Sell Well.
So I want to put you on the spot here a little bit. Okay. And we can make these fairly broad. I'm not going to like set a line or something, but like, you know, I would say like, you know, good, okay, bad, you know, predictions, D&D's launch, whatever they're calling it, 5th edition, 0.5, 6th edition, new edition, D&D 1, whatever term they're using nowadays. You think it will be what level of success do you think it will be? Do you think it will be a good, high, low, disaster, unmitigated grand slam?
I think it's going to be a pretty high success. First, the art looks insane. Like, okay. Even I was, when I was at PAX and they showed the art, I was like, damn. I was like, that is impressive. And that goes a long way to sell, especially to people that are new to role-playing games and are going to buy this. So it feels like it's very impressive. You need really, 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 really strong art. And that art is just so impressive. People thought it was AI. I mean, it's very good art. Look, it's got the cachet. If they're smart and they work with the book publishers and they work with the Barnes and Nobles and they work with the game stores and they really, you know, do their A+ launch and, you know, say what you want about Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering, they did a pretty good launch. Not perfect, but pretty good launch. They got the word out. And it sold extremely well. Like, I think it's the best-selling set ever. So
close to it. I mean, it wasn't even that really particularly that great of a set, but like between the One Ring hype and the Chase card and they had Frodo, but you know they had Elijah Wood coming in at the Frodo and you know, so they did it right.
They've divulged slightly into Magic the Gathering at this point.
They can market it, and what's more interesting, and then you can go, is that keep in mind they're going to be doing this. There's 3 books plus adventures, so it's like, where's the cutoff? Like, you know, the Player's Handbook might do great, but what about the Dungeon Masters Guild? What about their adventures they're coming out with? Like, you know, like what is what?
I consider the core 3 to be the Trinity, you know, to be like sort of the benchmark.
I think it's going to do look, everyone was betting against. I keep thinking of this. I keep thinking of like when it came down to it, there's the Harry Potter video game that came out last year. It's one of the best selling, if not it's one of the top selling games of the year, period. It made a ton of money. It's made an obscene amount of money. There was a lot of people who were protesting it. There was a lot of people who didn't want to buy it. You know what? The game ended up being very good. It looked great. And it sold insane.
For every one person.
Well, let me modify that by saying is that, you know, they do say that it sold well, but it sold well eventually.
There are 30 people happily going.
So I think what they're effectively referring to at this point is
on Amazon.
It doesn't matter if something is going to be very widely protested if it still comes out.
And it starts.
And it's an impressive enough looking product. It's still going to potentially have the ability to be successful, and that's something that we have to anticipate when it comes to the latest version of Dungeons and Dragons as well.
There can't be any AI scandals. You know, they got to make sure they have all their ducks in a row. Like, everything has to be perfect.
They did get rid of Mike Merles, and the community has hated him for a long time.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't on D&D anymore, but
but the point is that look. I think it's going to be, first of all, the Player's Handbook always sells incredibly well. So, I mean, it's the best-selling product, period. I think it's going to do very well. I mean, I think it's coming out in when was it? May. I think it's coming out in May.
But isn't that like that rumor, and then they took it down?
Well, it came out. Well, I'm gonna do a video on that because I explain how, because I figured out how they're gonna do it, and I have a little bit of inside knowledge, so it's coming. It's coming out of May.
Will it launch with the virtual tabletop?
Now that's interesting because I met with them and I spoke to them, and they said it's more or less it's going to be ready by then. Like they actually wanted to start public beta testing, real public testing in December, but they couldn't get their act together, so that's why they did it at PAX. But they said it's ready to go, and it definitely looked. It was like a final to near final beta state, which is really far. Now, they still have things like the storefront. You know what it's going to be like? Remember when the iPhone launched? And the iPhone, when it launched, was just an iPhone. And then slowly they started to add more stuff. And then they added the store and they kept adding. That's what it's going to be like. It's going to launch, but it's going to still be pretty basic. And they'll probably have like their own content in there. And that's it. And a link with
endlessly, eternally,
and then we might see the storefront, but I don't think we're going to see the storefront until later in the year. And then the 2024, 2025 by Christmas, then they're going to start putting in all the microtransactions, the add-ons, and so forth.
Sure.
I mean, I know for a fact. I mean, I know. I can't say, but I know the people working.
I mean, it's a pretty solid description of what the
I know for a fact
free-to-play model is. So yeah, I don't even call that a prediction. I just call that a thorough understanding of one type of marketing.
And the funny thing is, when he was in the meeting, he told me that he went to the meeting, and this was with the top executives, and he pulled up his computer, and on his computer was YouTube, and right there was Roll for Combat on the YouTube, and they all looked at him and says, I guess we know where you stand, or something to that effect, and he's like, sorry.
Somebody got his hand caught in the cookie jar. An exec that, effectively, was watching the same podcast, that, the showrunners were from. But, falling a little bit short of that and, just kind of providing a little bit of understanding about what the predictive nature of this video was. I certainly believe that everything, that he had said is extremely plausible. It's more than likely that things are going to happen exactly the way that he described it. But, he also just kind of stayed relatively close to land when it came to all these things. Are they going to release a new player's handbook? Yes. Is it going to sell well? Yes. Is it when that comes out, are they going to entice people to try to join the browser-based game? Yes, they absolutely are. Is that browser-based game eventually going to have microtransactions? Yes, it is. And they also just kind of gave a little bit of a hint of, the accusation that fighter image that was potentially in this new book was potentially created by AI. And, I'm sure that he was very complimentary of the art. I silently hope that, whatever artists actually contributed to it are still working for Wizards. They're not the people who are just involved in this enormous layoff. But, the future has yet to be seen. So eventually, we'll see how well everything like this comes out moving forward and what the fan response of it is going to be. All right, so we're going from that to an actual overview of a D&D product. This is effectively a review of the Book of Many Things, which is a manual that has had a significant amount of face time on the internet, most notably because it is coming with a pretty standard role-playing gadget that has been prevalent throughout Dungeons & Dragons since its inception. That would be, of course, be the Deck of Many Things. I personally have a third-party Deck of Many Things. I just have one that, just came on its own and then was published and had its art provided by a third party. But this is the official release for our 5th edition. Like most 5th edition releases, it actually comes as a combo. It's not just a book, but in addition to that, it is a copy of the Deck of Many Things. So this is from the channel Game Masters. This is the Book of Many Things 2024 release date for Dungeons and Dragons. Make sure that we start with the captions this time.
Many Things is set to release on January 5th, 2024. Game Masters here, and at the time of recording this video, it is January 1st, so we have 4 days to go before this book supposedly hits shelves. Of course, you can grab it via digital copy over on D&D Beyond right now, but here's what's interesting. While the book release was delayed through what we assume was a card printing issue on the deck of Many Things that comes, along with this book, we've seen verified documentation that January 5th is the new release date, both directly on Wizards' website where you can pre-order it, as well as through a post that they made on D&D Beyond. It also cites that EMEA and APAC locations will get it on or around January 29th. But if you go to the Amazon page, it still shows as being unavailable. So it looks like as of right now, just a few days before it's due to release, the only way that you can get it is either direct from Wizards of the Coast or from your local game store. And that's not a complaint. I'm fine with Jeff Bezos not taking a dime from this transaction. I'd much rather see that cash flow into your local game store. But it does make me a touch curious if something else is going on kind of behind the scenes.
I still blame post-pandemic supply chain issues.
D&D books, and that effective January 1st, it's only WotC-approved distributors that will be able to sell these books. This is exactly how it used to be back in the 1990s and early 2000s with distributors like Alliance or Diamond, GTS and the like, being among those on the approved list. Wizards' website reads, effective January 1st, 2024, Penguin Random House, LLC is ceasing distribution of Dungeons & Dragons titles from Wizards of the Coast. Moving forward, your store will be able to order Dungeons & Dragons titles directly from one of our approved distributors. To place an order for your store, simply visit our distributors page and select your preferred distributor and use the provided contact information to give them a call. And of course, jumping to their distributor page shows all of the locations that your friendly local game store can actually order from. It used to be, even going further back to the early 1990s, that you could only order direct from Wizards of the Coast. They were their own distributor. But honestly, the logistics of Wizards' growth between Magic the Gathering success and their acquisition of TSR meant that they really had to expand that distribution network to distributors that were in the business of, distributing games to game stores. And it looks like we may be returning to that. But it still leaves the question about the behind the scenes of what is going on with this scaling back. If I had to guess, I'd say that the number of books sold didn't meet expectations that Penguin's contract states a certain amount to be moved. It only makes sense that if Wizards cannot get the number of books printed that Penguin needs as a minimum, then the contracts wouldn't be renewed. Put another way, if I, for example, am making Paperclip the role-playing game, and you agree to distribute it, but for it to be worth your time, you'd need 5,000 copies. Then I'll have 5,000 copies worth of costs that I'll incur. The contract that you and I will write up will likely have something in there that says that at the end of the quarter, however many copies that you're not able to sell or distribute will be returned to me, and that I'll have to refund you all of the costs involved. That's a typical distributor contract. Okay, so now I've got 3,000 copies being sent back to me. You were only able to sell 2,000. So I've got 3,000 coming back to me. At a certain point, I've got to look at that contract and decide, you know what? I think I'm going to go with several smaller distributors instead of one major one. It's going to cost me less. And I suspect that that's kind of a watered down version of why WotC didn't renew their contract with Penguin Random House. Had the Book of Many Things been kept to its original schedule and come out in 2023, this easily would have been my number one pick of books for that year. I'm pleased to have a review copy of it, and I gotta thank Wizards for sending these copies to me. But my table, there's no but. My table has already had several fun encounters with the unique ways that the deck itself can be used, even if shuffling the cards are a touch difficult, which is why I suspect they delayed the print or the shipping of these. With it coming out in 2024, who knows if it's going to stand up as being among the best books for D&D for this year. But if you're looking for something fun and unique, well, as I've stated, this is a must-have for me in my table. A moment ago, I thanked Wizards for sending me a review copy, but I also need to give a mighty, mighty thanks to these Many Things supporters. Their contributions to this channel have made it so that I don't need to take on a sponsored ad for this video. Besides, we kind of all just usually skip those sponsored ads anyway, don't we? If you'd like to contribute and show support by becoming a Patreon or YouTube member, I'll leave a link down in the description, and of course I'll add your name to this ever-growing list of supporters. The Book of Many Things, contrary to what some think, is not simply a rehash of older material thrown into a new package. While the Deck of Many Things is an old magic item from D&D's earliest days, this book expands that deck with an additional 44 cards, giving you a selection of 66 total cards to throw into one large deck for you to kind of tempt your players with, or you can customize your own deck with the cards. In effect, you can make your own deck. You can make it as deadly as you need it to be, or as tame as you need it to be. The book itself includes advice on how to use the deck, but also new ways to use it, as opposed to simply just drawing a card and experiencing its effects. For example, there is the Moonstalkers and the Moon card. Well, the Moonstalkers, they're all werefolk, right? And their number one goal is to locate the Moon card, as it grants the ability to cast the Wish spell, I think it's 1d3 times. And the Moonstalkers want that card.
Oh,
They
wow.
Extort the player that drew the card, or they may invite that player into
That's
a deal to sell it. Or
probably,
they
that's exactly
try
3
out
more
to
times than
that
I want anybody to
whoever it is that
cast the
pulls that
Wish
card,
spell
they
in my
want that
game.
card. There are many more examples as to how to integrate the Deck of Many Things into an adventure, or even into an ongoing campaign. And as mentioned, not every single card is a party-killing card. Now, I won't deny that it's still a possibility, but the DM being able to craft their own decks specific to their table, the possibilities are endless, which is why this is a must-have and would have gotten my vote for the number one book of 2023. If you would like
Yeah,
to
that
check out
background
some
looks
insights
familiar.
into the content of the Book of Many Things, and the
I was going to
corresponding
discuss
Deck
that
of
at
Many Things to
at
see
the
if it's
end
worth
of
it
this
for,
video, but
for
thanks
you
for bringing it up,
and
Devin.
your table. Be sure to check out this playlist next. Is this something that you might add to your library? Let me know down in the comments. And until next our paths cross, may you all have all the wishes you could ever want.
Alright, so yeah, elephant in the room. Yeah, this is what my just chatting screen looks like, and yeah, it does seem like almost exactly the same kind of image that was behind the Game Master's YouTube channel. He appeared to have his printed out and put on a tarp that was just in the background of what he was doing, and so it was realistic. It was part of a realistic space, whereas of course my videos are all digital enough, so then that's really is just a JPEG in the background. I did provide a little bit of a filter here, is that I did put a little bit of oil painting onto that. And so, well, I mean, so what can I say is that other than the fact that, you know, I do use a lot of stock images, primarily the ones that are provided by Adobe Stock and all of the things that I create. And, you know, I do pay for licensing fees, and yeah, they're aware that the copyright holders are aware that I download these and I involve them in the channel. So, going from there to what was discussed in the video. So, I'm pretty sure there's no doubt in my mind that, the deck of many things is actually something that, works with 5e. It's been significantly enough expanded. There is more of a strategy when it comes to that. But something that I think is probably neglected by game masters in this situation is that, there are third-party deck of many things out there. I have one that also comes with an additional set of 32 cards, making it a total of 64 cards. And that is, probably the only separation between that and the 5th edition one is that, all the cards really just kind of have to have completely different things written. I've seen some seriously gorgeous ones even recently. Yeah. And all I can really say about that is, once again, this is tabletop. There's the company, well, Dungeons and Dragons, Wizard of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro, has the ability in order to create its own limitless elements when it comes to providing new material for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, but it also, the fans and the third-party developers are also just capable of doing the same things. As far as what was in the rest of the video, it's it is worth saying that I can speak up just a little bit about this because I've seen distribution around the shop. Penguin and Random House distributors, it has a surprising amount of pull when it comes to business-based distribution. An enormous amount of comic books that come into the store also just come from Penguin Random House. And it's not that they're the publishers of the book, but they are just people who run the distribution chain. And so, it feels kind of funny to talk about the fact that traditional business, X amount of copies have to be guaranteed to be sold through pre-orders before a company chooses to distribute a book. It all seems kind of primitive in a world that has digital distribution chains like Drive-Thru RPG or just self-publishing distribution chains like the ones that are provided by Amazon. But nevertheless, Penguin and Random House, they're going to play by their own rules. And Dungeons and Dragons is, we already know from past news that Dungeons and Dragons has been at a bit of a loss. So it's more than likely that they figured they couldn't meet demand for this book, and then they just kind of decided to go with a slightly cheaper supply chain when it comes to this new book. Maybe it's not even a priority for them, because I know that they're hoping to release the soon-to-be non-prototype Dungeons and Dragons 1, so a 5th edition book not necessarily a priority. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, so I think we're through with the news. We're going to watch a couple of dramatic videos. The first one is going to be When the Cleric Chooses Violence in D&D by Deerstalker Pictures. All right.
Mr. Nice Giant, please don't eat me. Guys, I need assistance.
In the name of Persona, Justice of the Dead, I command you to spit him out!
That wasn't part of the plan!
today that this has happened. Persona, please grant me the strength to make it through another day of babysitting them.
Listen! Listen! It's Lavandra. I don't think she's doing too well. Listen. Listen.
Stand back. Let me see. Not feeling too well is an understatement. Evandra is dead.
One for all.
With that, Evandra is no more.
Can't believe you killed me! I didn't kill you. It's not my fault that you failed your death saves.
Who threw the fireball then? Flittrin, was it you? Did you throw a fireball? No, you didn't. Patrick, can giants throw fireballs? No, they can't. They can only throw tantrums. Atreus, can you throw a fireball? No, you are useless. It was you pink melon farmer.
Oh my god, no! I didn't throw it at you. I threw it next to you. You were just in the danger zone.
You are the danger zone.
Well, it's a good thing we got a healer here who can cast some healing spells, isn't it?
You know I can do other things, right?
Less talky, more healy.
Are you aware that resurrection spells require a lot of expensive material components? Are you going to reimburse me for them, seeing how you're the one who killed her?
What? Kill is such a strong word. I mean, are you even sure that he's actually dead?
Evandra! Someone said fighters are basic and boring. See? Nothing.
She moved.
She did not!
Oh, can you two stop arguing and heal me already?
Evandra, you're dead. Stop talking.
Without me, who's gonna kill the giant dumb baby?
I'll do it myself.
Ah, well, that was a mistake.
When that fire mysteriously burned down my family's mansion, it made a hole in my heart. Like a donut. And it didn't matter what I did, I couldn't fill it back up. Not even with raspberry jam. Sorry. I think I'm hungry. Got back to you. And then you came into my life. And you started to fill out that hole again.
Okay, well, she was able to do that.
Please don't die. I don't want to be alone anymore.
Okay, yeah, nobody does that.
Did you really think I'd abandon someone in need?
Oh, it'll take a little more than that to kill me.
Yay!
Oh.
Sorry.
Turns out that giant had a pretty big stash of gold, so I'm set for spell components right now.
Hey, Blitzrin, how many spell slots do you have left?
I'm all out.
Great.
Oh.
Finally. Some peace and quiet.
I'm just glad I came out of that end.
Don't worry. I'll resurrect them again later. Much later.
That was such a fun game. And now I wait till the next one.
Oh no, we've lost him. Maybe you should try Demio.
Demia, what's that?
Demio is a multiplayer co-op dungeon crawler where you get to play as one of 5 character classes on PC or in VR.
Wow, it really feels like I'm a mini right there on the table.
Now you can play the game forever.
What's that giant hand doing? No, don't pick me up, don't pick
I am the dungeon master now. How did it feel, Patrick? Demio is a really fun digital tabletop adventure that features cross-play support with PC and VR players. So grab some friends, form a party, and download Demio today on Steam or in the MetaQuest store. You'll never figure out how to escape my dungeon.
Oh, this game. I gotta try the demo.
That's it.
You know, I have an Oculus Quest 2 myself. And so connectivity with connectivity with Steam. And well, suffices to say is that I eventually did just a full gaming PC upgrade so that I eventually would have the ability in order to run VR games on this. I've never used it for anything, but you know, maybe if that actually proves to be as good as it is, then I would be more than interested to try it. I can't be of the frame of mind that that is actually just going to be its own virtual tabletop because it really just doesn't seem to have the depth for that. But then again, I have virtual tabletop, and it also has Quest connectivity. So there you go. Okay, so final video of the evening. This is just a little bit more of a slice for life Dungeons and Dragons drama. This is called The Party Episode 1, Session 0.
Oh my god, I'm not gonna. Proliferations. I can do this. Recordings of theatrical productions debase the live communal viewing experience by cheapening the creator's original intent. The audience can no longer exert control over their narrative interpretations as the camera chooses their focus for them. And don't even get me started on film adaptations.
Recharge battery.
To quote the bard,
I wonder if they have a public SDK. Oh, that will always be the dream, isn't it? Everybody makes all this independent junk. I would like to become an investor. Yeah. Hopefully they'll get business savvy enough that will one day allow us to do that. I personally can't wait.
we can see from the proliferation of bootleg recordings, the proliferation. Hello?
Hey, Romy. Have you seen a notebook, leather bound? Maybe it got mixed up with your stuff when you moved in?
No? What was all that about yesterday?
My Dungeons and Dragons group, I'm sorry, I know we were really loud. But Yorick had just dealt the death blow on a dragon we've been tracking for months.
So, is it gonna be like this every Sunday?
Maybe go to a friend's house next week?
I don't have any friends.
Oh, I did warn you that we host a game night when you moved in. I'm already late. I have to go. Goodbye.
I thought you meant Scrabble.
Recordings of theatrical productions debase the live communal viewing experience by cheapening the creator's original intent and changing the medium.
I'm going to stop you there. Are you arguing that the film industry shouldn't exist?
No, not at all.
Even if your proposal wasn't deeply elitist. Your research methodology is too literary and, frankly, boring. What's your next topic idea?
My next idea?
This is one of the top community.
There is the one person who doesn't play Dungeons and Dragons in the whole universe that does.
You need to bring unique research to the field. So what do you bring to the table?
I bring... bring. Wow. She cleaned.
This is exactly what communication studies entails.
What? It's the entire playbook for my campaign. Stats, encounters, magical items. I've looked everywhere. I cleaned my whole room, checked under every corner, and moved furniture. Nothing. The only reason I was able to run the game last night is because this is a steel trap.
So, would now be a bad time to talk?
About what?
Your D&D game?
I already apologized about the noise.
No, it's not that. If I wanted to join, how would I do that?
What?
I want to play in your game.
You never seemed into this stuff in college, and you were definitely not into it last night.
Well, it seemed like you were having fun.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Why not?
Well, because this is a long-term commitment. We've been playing for over a year. You can't just drop out in 2 weeks because you get tired of it.
Oh, I am down for a commitment. I am in it for the long haul.
You have to show up every Sunday. This is a relationship. You do not get to leave us hanging because some blonde who likes Magic the Gathering and your stupid haircut comes along.
I will make this the #1 priority in my life.
Okay. We are down a player. But you'll have to convince the rest of the party.
The party?
Yeah. Watch out. Yorick can be a real lich.
Okay, and that is negative in what way?
Nice to meet you. I hope you got Yorick to dry clean those pajamas, by the way.
They're pajamas, Thistle. They don't need to be dry cleaned.
They're loungewear, actually. Mulberry silk. The worms were hand-fed.
Well, it's hardly my fault you didn't hit your mark.
It's D&D, Yorick. There are no marks.
Well, I wouldn't want her as a scene partner.
Anyway, hi. I'm
The newbie. Yeah, no, we know. Your room used to be the game room, but now we've been exiled to the dining room, like a bunch of casuals.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. He who must not be named took the gaming table in the divorce.
Is this a meeting about the ex?
Hi, John, right?
Jean, actually.
John?
Jean, Jean.
Jean?
Jean.
Jean?
Jean.
John?
Jean.
Yeah, whatever, Barry Blue Jeans.
No, like Picard.
That's worse.
Okay, is this everyone?
No, we still have ecstasy.
What up, nerds? This better be good. I had to cross the 1-1 twice in 1 week for this. Did you clean?
Newbie here wants to talk to all of you.
Ugh, I already apologized for the drink incident.
Are we gonna have to start rotating hosts? We're gonna have to skip my apartment. I live in a studio.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to come to my place either. Hey, what about you, Ecstasy?
No, I don't share my address with strangers.
We've been playing together for over a year.
Exactly. I don't know you like that.
Okay, nobody has to relocate. I just want to play.
In our game?
As a player?
You okay with this?
She's my roommate.
Where did you find her, anyway?
Freshman roommates.
It's not fair to have you all over for screaming matches every week and not include her. Besides, we're down a player. That manipulative klepto. I'm going to kill him.
What?
He stole my campaign notes.
Still have notifications on for that asshole?
You starting a Twitch channel?
You guys fight this out. I have to go. I'll go with. No, thank you. I'm okay.
No, you need backup. I know how he gets.
Whoa. What about your vote on newbie?
I don't care. Welcome to the party, newbie.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Good.
You need to bring unique research to the field. So what do you bring to the table?
I bring Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes, Dungeons and Dragons as conflict resolution.
You know, conflict resolution was one of my areas of study.
I had no idea. My roommate runs a Dungeons and Dragons game. They won't know I'm taking notes on them for my thesis. It'll be like an anthropological approach.
Good for you. I am so tired of students who just sit in the library all day instead of getting their hands dirty.
Well, I can assure you, I am very passionate about field research.
Sometimes I wonder if I managed to get through my MA program because it was a pandemic at the time. So it's probably that, you know, since I couldn't travel too far, I was still able to complete my research project with whatever feedback I was able to get. And so that's the beginning of the party. You know, no doubt, we'll be able to come back to this when there are future episodes. And just include them as part of our watch list for these upcoming segments. And so, yeah, this is the beginning of a brand new format when it comes to Brainy the RPG Cat. From this point forward, we are just going to follow up episode by episode by episode, provide all new stuff and try to link it back to the previous episodes' discussions over and over again. So it's a little bit different from what we were doing before. Yeah, proud of you and the group, Brady. Yeah, absolutely. Proud of everyone. And so, you know, eventually, yeah, we're going to bring out some more episodes of One Shot from the Meowing Portal. We've been starting discussions now, and I think the first episodes are probably going to materialize at the end of January. So here's to a wonderful year. Thank you, OS Devin. And so, yeah, from this point forward, yeah, we're going to be a lot more of a floating show. Is that, you know, from this point, I would like to just continue to work with news articles, YouTube material, and then we're going to use all of that as a means to provide content from this point forward. It's going to have a lot of similarities to my other morning show, and it's really just, you know, the continued conversation that is provided by such a format. So, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, OS Devin, for being a part of the chat audience. I had already set a schedule that stated I was going to be here Friday. I'm probably not going to be able to be here on Friday. However, I'm just going to postpone that episode until Sunday evening at 7:30, and I'll go ahead and make a post on Twitter about that. That's going to be, the third episode in where I and QB are going to get together, and we're going to continue to discuss the Pokemon Tabletop RPG. It may also be the last installment. Immediately afterwards, we're just going to get onto another subject when it comes to that. So, anyways, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. You guys have been a fantastic audience. I would like to take a moment, and I would like to do a raid. Let's see. I would like to pay a visit to... I think... Okay, well, I see OS Devin is on. He's having his regular session of World of Warcraft. Let's go ahead and let's pay him a visit. You know, thank you for coming into mod and participate in the chat. So, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm probably going to see you next this coming Saturday, 7:30 p.m. MST. Remember, BRANY means smart. Nothing's too hard if you use your head. Always be the change that you want to see in the world. Good night, everybody, and thank you very much for watching.